sports interaction. Canada Sportsbook.
The Montreal Canadiens have been sensed. Welcome back to Game Over Ottawa, everyone. I'm Maude, joined by co-host Charlie, and today we have a special guest from Game Over Montreal. It's a little bit of an SDPN crossover here tonight. We have Marc Dumont with us. How are you doing tonight?
I can't complain. I actually, you know what? I love Sens games because there's intensity no matter what, and the Sens will play well no matter what. Now the roles are reversed. The bad Habs are playing up to their, playing better, but always a fun time when playing the Senators.
Mm-hmm. And how are you doing tonight, Charlie? I think joining us from across the pond now, eh?
Yeah, first Game Over episode coming from Leicester, England. Full disclosure, guys, I slept through the first two periods because I just, I was up for nearly 30 hours. But I do have some fake notes that I wrote for the first two periods just to see if I'm anywhere close. So let me go right into those if you're
Sure.
all right with that.
Wait, hold on. Is Leicester? That's how you say it? So I lived in Leicester my whole life, like when I was in Ottawa. Is that how you say the word?
No, like Gloucester, then like
that's the right way to say it, right?
Leicester
Gloucester?
over, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like Leicester, yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, from across the pond, here are my notes from the first two periods that I did not watch. So first of all, I think it's really cool how the Sens tried to sneak Wade Redden onto the ice in warmups. Kind of a bummer that he was caught so quickly, but that could have been fun.
That happened. That was the first thing that happened.
How did you guess that one?
That was
Wow,
that's
right?
solid.
Nice. Okay. And then I was also a little shocked by Brady Tkachuk starting a "Where's Kotkaniemi" chant, which, kind of funny, kind of questionable, but either way. And then I think the weirdest thing was Claude Giroux revealing in his intermission interview that his pregame protein shake is just blended up Poutine with boiled chicken breast, just like right in there. Like I think that rightfully created a lot of disgust on Twitter. But,
that's a French Canadian heritage thing, though. So we have to be pretty sensitive about that. I mean,
props to Claude for being.
We all have family
that,
recipes that go down to our So that's legit. I will say that's legit. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that recipe there, Marc? How does that sound to you?
Well, you know what's funny? When I'm in Montreal, and we're gonna talk about the game, I swear, but I maintain that the best poutines that you can get are actually in Ottawa. Okay, and they lose their minds in Montreal. Well, you say anything's better, like you say shawarma's better in Ottawa, and they're like, absolutely not. Like, no, your shawarma's bad here. Like, they don't got pickles, they don't go for the crispy bits. Their salad is how do you say it? The choucroute. It's not actually a salad. It's like what do you get at Saint Hubert there? Creamy or
the creamy coleslaw type.
Yes, coleslaw. They use coleslaw.
Yeah,
so I know I'm already in shawarma right now. I'm getting upset about it, but. So
hey man, I got no problem with that. I put Ottawa shawarma in my application.
Oh God! I do pilgrimages to Palace, right? Like I used to live right on Besser, so I'd wake up and get that in there. Yeah. But the poutine is bad in Montreal, believe it or not. But that's because there's no chip trucks. So you all know, if you're in Ottawa, the best poutine comes from chip trucks. The best is Frito Mania in Orleans on Saint Joseph, but there's hardly any of those here. So believe it or not, I get my poutine out of town. And please don't ever air this in Montreal because I will get kicked out immediately.
You can't say this on Game Over Montreal. You had to save it for our show.
Exactly. Like, mom, I'm coming home. This was my official quitting. But it's funny. It became my whole thing that I was a poutine guy, and I let that slip once on the air with the Habs. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like the poutines here. And I legitimately got a talking to. They're like, no, you can't say that.
Oh my God. It's that serious, eh? Wow.
Hey, it falls under religious rights there in Montreal, poutine for French Canadians. So absolutely. And you know what's fun right now with the Sens and the Habs is that obviously they're going different directions, but we're seeing that intense, like they kind of lose their minds no matter. Well, I don't think the Sens lost their minds early this game. I think the Habs completely lost their minds, but we're always seeing one of the teams just completely go bonkers, and it makes for really fun games. Like it honestly makes for, you missed it, Charlie, but the Habs took about 17 penalties in a row in the first two periods. Like it was just like Jack.
It looks like I missed the good ones as far as being a Sens
dumb
fan
penalty,
goes.
like dumb penalties. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's I love it because all the fun games I've gone to in Ottawa has been Toronto too, and it's just because they play like junior teams and it's so fun.
Just something about, I think ever since those playoff series in the mid 2010s, just every time these two teams play, it's just always a spirited game, whether or not there's anything actually to play for in the standings, which this year, I mean, maybe, who knows yet? Because Montreal, off to, I would say, sort of a surprisingly good start, and Ottawa more of a surprisingly bad start. Maybe Sens fans have to hope that they're kind of changing directions in the standings, eh?
Well, statistically, if you allow me to get all nerdy on you, the Sens should be way higher in the standings. Like when you're looking at shot control, scoring chance, expected goals, whereas the Habs should probably be bottom three. You know what I mean? So that should even out. But I mean, we're reaching the third point mark. You know, a third of the season. I expect the Sens to turn around, but as you all know, there's not a lot of leeway. I'm almost worried that slow start is gonna sink them. But hey, they play the Habs 3 more times, so
Maybe that'll help us out, eh?
a little bit, yeah, a little bit. No, but it's and also to get back to we were talking about Olivia and oh sorry, what's their names? Anna Melnick before the game. Just the fact that I know they want to sell the team, but the fact that they opened up the coffers and they allowed Pierre Dorion to do legitimate work, at least in my opinion, that's the big difference here. That's what I find so encouraging about this is that they actually have the money to work in here, So I believe it or not, I want the Sens to do quite well because it's my hometown, and I think they might be able to get over that rough start, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure is an interesting point you bring up about them kind of opening the purse pockets. That's got to give us a lot of confidence, eh, Charlie, going forward?
Yeah, I mean, not to be like, pat myself in the back too hard here, but when that happened, I was like, oh, they're selling the team before the end of the season. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, they're like bringing in better players, and with LeBreton kind of getting closer to being approved, right? So I was like, it's just one of those things where you could kind of tell it was going to happen, but nice to try and sell a team that's in better shape, right? Like, at least they clearly care, which is great.
Well, and that's it, especially since they have the preferred bid, right, at LeBreton Flats, which, again, I'm going to show my age here, but back in the day, that was like the original place where the Senators wanted to go, and they were saying they couldn't build something heavy on there, and then they put the War Museum, right, like right beside it, and the whole thing was to get, what was the name of the first owner, Bruce Firestone, was that it? But it was essentially they made him pay for the highways. They made him buy land off the Shirelles down west. It was just I criticize Eugene Melnick a lot, but for where he came in and where he bought the team, it was already in a bad situation. You know what I mean? Like the city are the ones that really pushed the Senators into a really bad situation. So I'm glad, like Ottawa deserves to have an amazing fun downtown. And just coming out of other games, like Montreal, you come out and they're boom, you party your way into a bar. Whereas obviously the Sens, you take, what is it, the 95 to get all the way home. So once that deal's there, and I'll be honest, Charlie, I would have sold the team immediately too if I'm them too. Like they're gonna get 2 or 3 times the value of the team. So like that kind of ruins the whole sunshine and lollipops part of it. But
yeah.
In the meantime, it's fun, and they had to open up the purse coffers a little bit, and people are saying that's not them doing it. Yeah, they're the ones. Yes, there's a board governor, but the credit goes to Anna and Olivia Melnick, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing, is because they could have just sort of sat around and, waited for a sale, but instead they decided to invest in the product and make it more enticing for future buyers too, which is really awesome.
And they're involved, right? Like, like we saw that, like they're not afraid to kind of go out there and, it could be intimidating because again, the average age of an owner in the NHL is about 742 years old. So, like they're obviously the outsiders there. And I just love seeing it. I'd love if they could keep the team, but let's be honest, Maude, you would sell the team as well at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
For what, the 700 or 800 million they'll get? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I forget what it was said that the team's worth. It was like, what, 600 and change, and everyone kind of knew it's going to be higher than that with how much interest.
It's looking like a bidding war.
Right now, Michael Anthauser, I believe, he's the one who invested in the Canadiens right off the bat. He was part of that conglomerate that bought it, and he invested 28 million into the Canadiens to get a 20% share, I believe, of the Canadiens at the time. So,
oh my God.
So I believe the Canadiens are valued at about 2 billion, and they sell for 6. So yeah, he's gonna probably have to divest his shares in the Canadiens, and he's tried to buy the Senators before. He owns the Bulldogs right now, so he might be in the lead right now. I know we're talking about Ryan Reynolds, but like he doesn't have the money to do it, right? So right now, I do believe it is Michael Anthauser. I'm destroying his name, but he should be probably the next owner. That's what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just need Ryan Reynolds in there, sort of as like a secondary mascot for us.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's almost guaranteed now. Apparently he met with Bettman, and I
the
believe
different
Daly
groups,
as well. So it sounds like whoever grabs the team, they're going to be like, all right, well, you have to give like 5 to 10% to Ryan Reynolds, right? Like
just
so I
for
think,
like being awesome fee, you know, like,
yeah.
like be cooler. But you know what's funny too, because I mean, we talk about guys that are affable. There's very few affable people in the you know, entertainment world, and he would fit so perfectly. I know he's not from Ottawa, but he lived in Vanier. So, and I lived in Vanier as well. So that means you're legit. Like if you went to Riverside Pizza and got one of those or Eastview Pizza and got one of those $1 like fold up pizzas, that means you are OG Ottawa. You get to invest, but it's a good time for new owners too, because you're looking at guys like, I don't know how Pinto is a rookie, but there's a nice little core there, right, to build upon. Obviously, Giroux's not going to be there forever, but I think if you're buying, it's also pretty attractive as well, because we saw today a lot of young guys are making a significant impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that you bring up Shane Pinto. We definitely got to talk about his goal there tonight. That was just a beautiful shot. I'm feeling like he's really becoming a bit of a true sniper here with that high goal total and low assist count.
Yeah, he's pitching. He's out there getting the Cy Young award.
Mm-hmm, Cy Young, yeah.
How is he only getting into the league? How is he still a rookie? It's blowing my mind right now. Like,
injury last year is what did it. Shoulder injury. He played what, 5 games, or was it a dozen games?
I think it was between 10 and 20, but whatever keeps you under like the rookie limit, right?
Yeah,
under
maybe
20. It was like
basically.
Originally, I think his first season he played 5 games, and then he played like a few.
Well, he's not an octogenarian like the winner like Michael Bunting. So at least like, you know, he's in reasonable. If he makes a run for the Calder, it's legit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. We've seen Shane Pinto over parts of 3 different seasons now, but still a rookie and still new to this lineup. It was really awesome to see him step up with a huge goal, setting the tone in this game with the opening goal, especially because, you know, a lot of weight has been put on him with the injuries at center to Stützle and Norris. Like we were already talking about with the Norris injury, how it's been kind of tough on Pinto having to move up in the lineup and figure out playing with new line mates. But then with Stützle out as well, I think it was a good decision by DJ Smith to keep Pinto on that second line, because even though I've been critical of that line before, I did think they were a lot better in the last few games, and they actually got a good 5-on-5 goal tonight, which that's where they've been struggling the most, is those 5-on-5 goals.
Where was Pinto playing beforehand? Was he
so at the beginning of the season he was on the third line with Tyler Mott and Matthew Joseph, who are actually both injured now too. They weren't in this game at all either.
And Stützle, and when is Norris coming back? Like soonish?
Hopefully. Do you know
Stützle's
the
coming back like
early
soonish?
reports were saying like January, February.
Mm-hmm.
So like soon-ish, yeah. Like that's probably the right way to put it.
I think I saw that they were going to reevaluate his shoulder after Christmas, which who knows what reevaluate means. If it'll just probably be, I guess, another update at that point.
But I mean, it's still pretty fun to look at this roster and think there's guys like Stützle and Norris that would be making a significant impact, right? Like I think when you look at what around teams around the league that have something to build on but aren't too far to being decent, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think the Senators are kind of like that team that's on the cusp of really, you know, about to make that run. Even with the rough start, I still think that they're probably, I'm going to give them 50-50 in the playoffs. I don't know how you guys feel about that or how you all feel about that, but 50-50 feels about right now, even though statistically it's going to be difficult.
I think a lot will hinge on how we can survive until those centers are back. Like this short little stretch until Stützle is back, like hopefully it's just a week like they said. If we can keep winning during that with him out, that would be huge. And then at that point it's looking like a pretty good hot streak at that point.
Right. Okay. I want to give a shout out to a death. And I think there's a word I can't say. We're saying shout out to Ottawa Poutine. You get the benefit of fresh Saint Albert cheese curds, and that is so. Yeah, I know I'm going back to Poutine. Sorry, Charlie. Sorry, Maude, but that is so important. The fresh Saint Albert, because they have the petites graines bleues here in Montreal. And terrible Saint Albert cheese forever. The good part is most French people assume it's from Quebec. So you're like, yeah, Saint Albert, good to go. Yeah. But yeah, he absolutely got it right. And we got who else here? David's in here saying, yeah, you know, whether Melnick was to blame or not, I think everyone agrees, right? And I think you guys, the Sens fans, would agree that Anna and Olivia were just some of the best things that happened here. So shout out to people in the chat right now.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to everyone watching live tonight. And just before we get back into more analysis of the game, I'd like to thank
Poutine, right? More Poutine?
Yeah, before we get back into more Poutine.
I want to talk about cheese curds for real.
Now I really want a Poutine. I'm gonna have to grab one tomorrow or something.
Also, like, fuck the both of you for bringing up Poutine when I'm back in
Oh my
England now.
God.
Day one.
You can get like oh man, no, you can't, because you need structural integrity on the fries. You need a really thick gravy, kind of like a blizzard where you flip it over and like the gravy
Right?
stays there. And
Yeah.
you need them good curds. So yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna
it's
get
just
grated
not
cheese
it's just not
and
possible over here.
It's not happening. You'll have to like
No.
pick up. I don't know what cheese curd availability is like in England, but if you could like get the ingredients yourself and make some sort of homemade poutine or something,
it's
maybe.
just never as good though. Like
No.
Yeah.
you need the stink of dirty grease that hasn't been changed in like
Yeah.
3 days. That's where you get the
Yeah.
good stuff.
I've seen like, like Poutine served in London and it's grated cheese and it's just
Oh
it's
God.
no.
And it's like, thanks for trying, but you've insulted
Yeah, I
my
appreciate
entire
the
heritage,
effort.
So
All right, so to thank our sponsor, Sports Interaction. You think you know which way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's the World Cup, which has the final coming up, hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pre-game, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Now, unless you guys have
I
anything
just
more to
noticed.
say about Poutine.
do you know what that says right there? My
Oh,
glass.
what is that?
Can you see that? Does Dooley's still exist in Ottawa? The
I don't
pool
know
place?
actually.
Do you remember Dooley's? Okay.
I might be too young for that.
Maybe I'm too. No, you know what it is, Mode? I'm way too old. Because the Dooley's used to be beside the McDonald's where there was a caboose. You could bring. Okay, yeah, I'm way too old for this. Yeah.
I do want to just quickly mention that anyone in Ottawa or the Ottawa area, 100% go to Saint Abel for some cheese curds. Like, because my dad grew up in Alexandria. I don't know if either of you have ever been to Alexandria, but like on the way. So like as a kid driving there with my dad to go visit family, always stop for cheese curds. Specifically, always get cheese curds and a bottle of Coke, but like in the glass bottle. That's the must. You have to get the glass bottle of Coke.
Yeah, and you gotta have the scientifically. It's called the squeak, the quick, and you know, when you eat it, it's science. Yeah,
it's got to squeak. It's got to be warm when you buy it.
Welcome to the Poutine podcast featuring Charlie and Maude.
So yeah, back to the game. One thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight was the Senators' power play. I have to give them full credit because I remember doing a show, I think near the start of November. I think it was against the Islanders, and the Sens had, I think they went 1 for 7 on the power play, and that one power play goal was like a really quick 5-on-3. And I spent like my whole show just complaining about how the power play wasn't working at all yet. But I have to give them full credit that they seem to have figured things out here, especially like that top unit is kind of just playing all of the power play ice time, partially I think due to the injuries, but they are really working it around out there and managing to get results too.
Good puck movement. What I noticed tonight was they were getting Montembeault moving, right? And a vulnerable goalie, a moving goalie is a vulnerable goalie. So now I will say word to the warning, even though the Canadians actually have a pretty high PK, it's pure goalie. So I wouldn't base a lot of the success on, what they saw against the Canadians. But what I did see was something that will work against almost any team. It's just that quick puck movement, but not necessarily predictable. I always like to see controlled chaos in the power play, right? So enough to make it difficult to anticipate, but enough so that your teammates can react to what's happening. I think we saw a lot of that from the Ottawa Senators tonight. Just fantastic cross ice puck movement through the Royal Road, and that's when you get that goalie moving. Oh man, goals will come. So yeah, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about what you said about the penalty kill actually for the Habs was if there was the element of the Habs penalty kill, making the power play look good. Like, how has the Habs penalty kill been overall this year? Like, you said they have a pretty high ranking, right?
Yeah, I think they're 10th right now. They're at about 80% now. It's all like a lot of that was the beginning of the year because Jake Allen and Montembeault had like 100% save percentage on the penalty kill, and everyone's like, "Wow, David Saval's blocking like 14 shots a game. That's amazing." And it's like, if your main guys are blocking that many shots in the power play, it's because you're allowing the most shots in the league. And turns out, I haven't checked in a while, but it was Tampa was the worst, and then Ottawa right behind, or Montreal right behind. So they do allow a ton of high chances. They don't allow a ton of high quality chances. So the fact that the Sens actually got into those high danger zones, I think that was really good. At the end, I thought it was actually really bad positioning by Jack-Eye, but just the movement where Tkachuk was in front and they were basically doing like the dog leg to come back in front and shuffle it back to Tkachuk. I thought that was really, quick, smart, movement. And despite Jack being out of position, that's the kind of stuff that'll get you power play goals. But I haven't been following. What are they at right now? Are the Sens, is the Sens power play half decent or?
Yeah. Do you have the stats, Charlie?
I did them
I'm
earlier.
looking for it right now, actually, and I don't know if
I did them in my game
updated.
preview.
I think they were ranked 6th right now. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
at 27%.
What? And they've been on fire lately, right?
Mhm.
Which is
Yeah,
wild
huge
because
hot
it was so bad to start the first
Yeah.
10 games or so. But on the flip side of that, the PK was also weirdly phenomenal for the first 10 games. And then as the PK fell off and the power play has shot up.
Hey, I'm getting called out by some of my Montreal people from Claire. She's saying that I'm dissing Montreal Poutine.
Oh my God.
Claire, you never saw this. You did not see it. And thank you to Mr. the new guy, because confirmed that Dooley's was a place. So we're both old. Yeah. Fellow old.
For what it's worth for the Montreal crowd, one of the best Poutine I ever had was I was in Old Montreal a couple years ago, right by the water, and I had the most Montreal thing of all time, which
Was
is
it duck confit poutine or something?
It was close. You're not far off. It was smoked meat
The
poutine,
smoked meat, of course.
and it was fucking phenomenal. That
Yeah,
said,
absolutely.
I will probably I can only really vouch for Ottawa Poutine just because that's the most of what I've had naturally. And as basic as it is, it's tough to go wrong with smokes, really.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I actually have a thing about anything that calls themselves a poutinerie. I just because I think poutine should be $8 no matter what. They should be
Right.
okay, Ahmad, I know I'm going back to the poutine and I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay, it's
about
okay.
it. But just like the Sens power play, a good poutine can really put you in your place. No, but seriously, to go back to it, and the Sens running at this did Norris play on the power play last year?
Yeah, he was actually probably the biggest part of the power play last season because we would just be setting him up for one-timers. So, that was pretty much our only strategy on the power
it was
play.
the Suzuki to Caulfield move. Okay,
exactly,
yeah.
just on the other side. Yeah, same thing.
Okay, well then it's still pretty darn impressive that it's working at this efficiency without some of their heavy hitters. And and Stützle is also, or was he second unit or
He
first
was
unit?
first unit, and then they put Giroux on there today.
Okay, well there you go. So without some of those guys, I think it is pretty impressive. And that's what you need to float you when things go wrong injury wise, right? Is your power play. You can count on it. So I think that's really good news for the Ottawa Senators,
especially with that off season that the Sens had, adding so many of those offensive tools. The Sens, much like the menu at the Great Canadian Poutinery, have a whole bunch of options, almost too many options. So it's tough to just put together those two power play lines.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like, they were grading me just like the cheese that I had on my poutine in London. Come on. Oh yes, Albert. Remember he was a good guy, just like that city.
Yeah, but at the beginning of the season there, it was almost like you mentioned about the options. It almost felt like maybe they had too many options, and it's like some guys are going to be stuck on the second unit, or how do you get the time split evenly between both units? So it's almost kind of funny that as these injuries happen, then the first unit really starts clicking, where they're kind of the only options because they don't really want to be sending out those other guys who are on the second unit anyway tonight.
Yep.
It's just a mishmash of players at this point on the second unit. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. When Stützle is back, he'll just slide right back in and they move Giroux to the second unit. But when Norris is back, that's going to be really interesting to see how if they can manage to fit everyone in.
Well,
I'd rather do it.
You're not gonna see when you were saying get it to Norris, that was the only move. Let me guess, it wasn't working very well, right? In terms of efficiency, or did it actually work out well when it was just get it to Norris?
It was pretty good. It was just kind of like a case of his shot was so good that eventually he was just going to beat the goalie at some point.
He was Caulfielding it. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's not sustainable, right? Just counting on pure talent. So I love sometimes when these guys get pulled out, just because you can actually see, it forces you to come up with different options. So I'm a big fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of interested to look it up now, what his goals were 5-on-5 versus power play, because last year Norris had 35 goals in 66 games, and I'm actually now I don't know what the split on that is.
I wonder if you guys want to fill airtime. I'll try to speed run the NHL.com stats page and find it.
I was gonna do that, but okay. So we're getting our stats here.
I'll ask Mark right now. Actually, what do you think Josh Norris's favorite poutine is?
Oh, I don't know, but it's not as good as Nick Suzuki's favorite poutine. Okay, so Hamza Judah says it's 27% was the power play, and 78 was the penalty kill for that. So, all right, yeah, that's it's still pretty darn good, 27% running on that. Now, I'd love to cross-reference that with the high danger chances. Like, is it a lot of that shooting percentage? But also this whole thing about shooting percentage, a lot of people be like, oh, that's not sustainable. Well, yeah, you know what? Some guys do shoot at 20%. Like some guys are just better. Not Suzuki score on every 4 shot better, but you know, I don't necessarily consider high shooting percentage as unsustainable. So, my brother Andrew told me about you in your stream. Hey, how's it going? Talisman Tate and also Robert's here. Hey, and we also have Armand. Hey, we got all the heavy hitters. They're leaving here. Andrew.
Awesome. I got the Norris stats here. His goal total was 36, and 16 of them are on the power play. So that's almost half.
That's like you're running at like 47%. Yeah, that's
and you mentioned about the shooting percentage. He shot 20% last year, which I think was the main talking point that everyone brought up when he signed his extension. Is that it's really high.
Yeah. Okay, but I get that, but you know, there's a reason some more cerebral players, for example, I'm going to go back to Suzuki here because it's what I know. They are picking their shots as well, right? Like this is not I don't want to say it's reverse gaming, but they're not out there throwing away. They're not Gallaghering it or Kachucking it by putting 1,000 shots on net, right? Like they are picking their shots, waiting for high danger areas. So there's something to be said about, you know, taking better shots overall. And, you know, obviously we've seen Norris and just having that high quality shot. So yeah, of course the numbers are going to regress at some point, but you know, I wouldn't worry too much. What's the reaction right now in Ottawa about that extension? Because at the time I thought, hey, pretty rich, but then I saw his stats. I'm like, okay, like pretty darn good. That's about the value.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Charlie? What have you seen people say?
I think as far as the 8x8s go, I think the general consensus was everyone likes Stützle's deal a little bit more than Norris.
What was that, like, 7.5 or something? Or
Stützle's also like an 8x8.
I think they're almost
ballpark.
Even. Like not quite.
It feels like that's the new good young guy contract. Like here, take an 8/8.
Suzuki,
you know, that's what Caulfield will
do, right?
Pardon me?
Suzuki was basically 8 times 8.
Yeah, he was a 7.37, whatever. It was the highest paid ever. But Caulfield's gonna get 8/8 probably most likely coming up soon.
And Chabot's extension was an 8x8 as well a few years back.
And I mean. Dallas would have wanted to sign Jason Robertson to an 8/8, but they were hard-headed about it. And you know, that's what I love is seeing these big contracts and everyone's like, oh no, this isn't great. Yeah, you know what? This is the smart way to invest because it's better than it's better than Vancouver Canucking it there. You know what I mean? Like spending all your money on, I don't know who's on. Is Jay Beagle still on Vancouver's roster? I feel like Jay Beagle's still on Vancouver's roster.
Was Jay Beagle part of the OEL trade?
I think he was. But his contract might be sitting in Arizona still. It might still be
there
going.
You go. OEL is another example because like that it was a little bit better, but you know, so it's so much better to I think it's a wiser gamble to maybe waste a little on a younger player rather than, you know, and it's a real thing in the NHL right now. Players and agents are upset and they're saying, you know, the old guys are getting squeezed out, but I feel like the NHL is so far behind other leagues in getting their new young talent. Like NFL, he gets drafted and 12 minutes later he's in the starting O-line. You know what I mean? Like hockey, it's okay, you could go play for Frölunda for 7 years and we're going to see how it goes. So, and a lot of those guys that are playing in Frölunda are already better. So I love seeing guys like Norris and Stützle get their worth because that's a smart investment and it's what fans want to see, right? That's what gets fans excited and in the seats.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of draft picks kind of getting thrown in right away, what's the vibe around Slavkovsky in Montreal? I've been kind of curious about this.
It's weird. Like, you know, I'll give this to Habs fans because I heard once in a while Habs fans can be a little erratic. I mean, like a little emotional, you know, a little intense. But I think this is the difference between Kent Hughes and Marc Bergevin. Is Kent Hughes set the bar like as low as possible. So like when Bergevin ran Drouin, he wanted to kill, you know, 2 birds with 1 French Canadian stone. He's like, he's going to be great and he's going to be our French Canadian saver. He's going to be a center. When Slavkovsky came in, they're like, listen, we're not actually picking the best player today. And we know that, but we think we can build him into a better player. And they've taken a slow approach, very slow approach, but they've actually, like his underlying numbers have been gotten better. It's way too slow of an approach though. Cause let's be honest, playing 10 minutes a night with Michael Pezzetta. Michael, if you're watching this, love you, bud, but it's not the best way to score. However, now that he's playing in the top 6, we're seeing a little bit better. Like we're seeing him tonight. Who was it? A Sens player had him lined up to like.
Oh, yeah. Watson was running out.
Watson was going to bring him to La La Land. And that's the type of improvement you're seeing with Slavkovsky is that one of his big things was he gets lit up. It's true. But he tends to improve on these things. Like that was actually one of the lingering issues was that he still is getting lit up. But then we saw today he was practicing with his coach, like basically keep your head up. And then, he dodged going to see Mr. Sandman on that move. So we're seeing constant improvement. I see raw talent there, but it's the computer that's not quite there, right? Like it's all about processing things quickly. So it's a lot. Like the process, especially when you're a Habs first round pick. Like I remember at one point after the draft, 5 days later, I met him and he's just like, he had that look in his eyes, like he had been at sea for 100 years. He's like, is this how it's going to be all the time? Like, yeah, man, like welcome to your life. So it's a lot to take in. Expectations have actually been kept reasonable. So fans aren't that upset. Some wanted him at the World Juniors, some wanted him in Laval, some of them were happy in Montreal. So there's no consensus, and I think in the long run, taking the slow, steady approach, like the slow cooker move, low and slow, let the beat go. That's what's working for him. And ever since he's been in the top 6, he's actually been playing much, much better. So far, like I'm proud of Habs fans for not losing their minds. It's been pretty good.
That's good to hear. Not that I'm exactly cheering for the Habs in any capacity, but I do have to say I hope he turns out better for you guys than Kotkaniemi did. I have to say that.
That's the reason every time today I brought up the whole, it's okay, he's not going to Slovakia, because he's getting better now and he's getting better mitts. And then someone literally found a tweet from me that I said the exact same thing about Kotkaniemi, like word for word. And then, like I was like, oh, whoops. But I do think Slavkovsky is probably a little more suited to deal with pressure. And I'm not insulting Kotkaniemi. He didn't like the pressure. And that's fine. You're allowed not to like pressure. You're absolutely allowed. But Kotkaniemi, Slavkovsky's built a little bit better for the market. And I'm again not trying to insult Kotkaniemi.
Mm-hmm. All right, and that is where we're gonna have to leave it tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
The Concorde drone? Yeah, we got it. Yeah,
this is so funny because literally today at the airport, I just posted an Instagram story, and my Instagram story said, "I regret not getting about a dozen more Poutine than I did while I was at home." So to go from that to now talking about it, it's.
I might order some right now. Maude will order some right now, and you can get some fish and chips. It's pretty good.
You guys can send me some photos. I need some photos from both of you.
I'll taunt you with some Poutine pictures.
Yeah, not safe for work. Yeah.
It's gonna be. I can't deal with it.
Just before we go, I also want to shout out the SDPN merch that we all have here.
Oh, we're matching.
It can be a little hard to see on camera sometimes, but hell yeah.
Well, I might. Yeah. Yeah.
So sdpn.ca for that merch if you want to get some of your own. We got lots going on there. And that'll do it for tonight. Me and Charlie will be back on Saturday afternoon, right? For the game against Minnesota. Early game, eh?
Yeah, I think it's a 1 p.m. start.
So thank you everyone for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to SDPN and share the show around to your friends. Have a good night, everyone.
Happy Poutine.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.